Alright, so early sedol game for part 2. And here we see sedol take dual 3-4 points, so probably interested in territory. Might be interested in making a mini Chinese along the top as well, since the upper left-hand stone is 4-4. However, white decides to be very aggressive and immediately pick a fight with sedol. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm still uploading to YouTube. I didn't put up my most recent because I didn't like it. I'm picky. What can I say? sedol takes a last corner for himself. So naturally we see white go ahead and approach again. And now this is where things get interesting, because there are so many different ways to reply here. We can go ahead and put pressure on the first stone, we can take territory, we could, I don't know, maybe even approach the 3-4 stone. I mean, almost whatever you want. Black decides he's going to develop the left. 0-4 I don't like so much. 0-4 is kind of weak. Because when I wonder what your follow-up move is, it's going to be a pincer of some sort, I guess. But this is still easy for white to get out of. Whereas here, we know black's follow-up. Black would go ahead and hane, and the white stone would be very, very painful. So chances are not going to see this ignored. And in fact, we don't. White goes and takes territory. A very sane option. Everyone likes territory. Except last game. That person loved influence, but most people love territory. In this game, sedol was going to get some influence for himself. Isn't that an interesting change? Now, interesting thing with this Joseki that you should know that black is playing is this cut point is viable. And if white takes it, then the stones at Q4 are pretty much gone. You really can't save that without giving your opponent a very, very large wall. You're essentially forced to sacrifice the 2 stones and try to get influence out of it. sedol leaves the cut point, and he makes a bit of an odd high Chinese. Sorry, I misclicked. Doesn't make a high Chinese. That looked weird. He makes something a little bit stranger than a high Chinese, I'm afraid. Yes, I got the tree right the first time, so oh well. So he plays a little bit closer than we would expect. Farther back would be the high Chinese, which is why I immediately clicked it out of habit. Here is something that I don't think I've seen anywhere else. Yeah, it's kind of this odd high micro Chinese. Can't really say much about it, aside from one thing that you probably do not want to do is approach this 3-4 stone in a traditional manner, because there is absolutely no room there. You probably want to approach this on the other sides, either over here, or maybe over here. Take advantage of the cut anywhere else but there. To be fair, Exavad, I don't think I've seen this anywhere since. It's very, very unusual. Black decides that he's trying something new then, I guess. Or maybe something that was occurring back then. I don't know. This isn't from 1996, though. This is from 2001. So, not as old of a game. I was actually playing Go at this time. But white's very, very cautious about this. He sees something weird going on the bottom of the board, and he's not going to just dive in and figure out what his opponent wants to do. He's treating it with respect. Black ignores the approach and decides to continue to approach white instead. White backs off, probably for Sente. And then black decides to do something very, very interesting. Now that this side is nice and strong, he decides to go ahead and attach here. Why would he be attaching? What's the attachment for? Indeed, to build a bottom. That is quite correct. We are not attaching to... one second. Sorry, had mic troubles. But yes, as pointed out, black is now attaching not to try to attack d10. No one should ever think that. The attachment is going to make your opponent stronger. However, what he wants to do is he wants to be made stronger from white responding to him. And the reason why he wants to do that is because he wants to build up this area. So white responds. Black plays the Hane. If white actually responds here, then he's overconcentrated, which is kind of interesting. So instead he bends the other direction, instead of this way, because now it seems like we have to go down or protect the cut point or something, and you can see that that's ugly. You can see that no one wants to make this shape. That's just horrible. Especially since there's still push. Way too concentrated for white, and black is working out very nicely here. So white bends, but black still gets fourth line territory here. So that's fine. Fourth line territory is nothing to turn down. So white finally goes back and prevents black from expanding any further. He gets a nice little wall for himself. So now it's a question of what to do. And the answer to that could be pretty much anything. You can go ahead and defend himself on top. Might go ahead and make the turn. That's still 7th line and still very, very nice. But he decides to go ahead and make his approaching stone potentially live as is. White obviously responds with the Hane. Black responds with the Hane, but not the one you would expect. Usually we would expect here, and either this to live, or if white wanted, to go up and get rid of this for black to live in the corner. This variation, on the other hand, is usually reserved for handicap games. Black plays a co-threat, obviously, and white immediately ignores it. And we can immediately understand why. He's got influence, right? He already has a stone on the top of the board. If he gets another, that is a very large top side for him. Yep, typically they'll just connect. That is true. So black follows up. White follows up. He sees that there's almost a fourth of the board here ready to be grabbed up for him. And he's going to take it. And this is where things get decidedly violent. Because obviously, white on the bottom right is undercut. He really does need an extension there. So black follows up and attacks by taking away the 2-space extension away from white. Now we have a decision to make. Are we going to try to run that out, or are we going to play elsewhere? What do you think? What should we do? Resign. Doubt. Where's your fighting spirit? It's only sedol. You can kill him. Alright, a lot of people are saying sacrifice, I think. Is that what's being said, or am I hallucinating? Yeah, play elsewhere, secure something else. Wait, secure the... Oh, top... Top left? I don't know what you mean by secure the top left. The top left is not getting any more secure than that. Ooh, WWSD, I do like that one. P15. Continue to expand. That is in fact what's played. Congratulations, go grab your professional diploma. White sees a very, very large area. Oh, sorry. Never mind, I have rescinded it. Nice idea. You're almost there. He's ensuring that it's going to be Sensei to lean on him. And he's ensuring it's getting a nice 4th line wall. If we were to go ahead and play this, then chances are black would go ahead and shoulder hit. And now black's obviously going to be happy with more 4th line territory, because the entire right side is working out nicely. Ah, you meant Q15. Okay, good. I imagine that you did. That would be very strange to see from a 1 done. I had a feeling that you meant that. That's why I immediately assumed you did. I don't like the 1 space, again, simply because it allows your opponent to go ahead and lean here. And you can't respond to this. In almost every circumstance, you do not want to respond to this, because you do not want to give your opponent 4th line territory. So typically when we jump out, it's better to lean. Does it leave the push and cut? Sure, it does. But if white finds black simply backing off here, as we see in the game, that's only 3rd line territory. And that's much more manageable. So, white's getting a very, very large area for himself. Black's getting some territory. Secures his territory. Make sure that nothing weird's going to happen there. Because there's still a lot of Aji to be had by playing under or attaching. Black bends for 7th line. And now it's about time to do something more interesting. We could keep responding and taking 7th line territory, and white's gonna keep responding by taking everything above us. So, really, we need to try to reduce. And remember, this is a reminder for sane people. We can see the outer edge of white's area. So generally speaking, we probably want to be very, very cautious about going any deeper than this. However, for the crazy people amongst us, white decides to go ahead and play m14, which is a little bit deeper. Yes, black decides to play m14, sorry. Now, on the bright side, there is a lot of space. You're absolutely right. There's a bit of a cut point that black can take advantage of if he gets another move in. So, there's also that. But there's no way this stone is not coming under severe attack. It's just too deep. No one could ever look at this move and say, alright, I'll just, you know, I'll back off and maybe defend M16 or something and call it a day. So it's really a question of what do you want to do? Are you going to cap it? Or are you going to go ahead and ignore it and play something equally bizarre of your own? Don't recommend that one, by the way. A sane person would probably be playing a little bit more passively somewhere over in here. White decides to go ahead and take everything left of that position, because that move's going to have to run, and I think the idea here is that white wants to follow it back to where it's trying to go. So it runs, and white follows, threatens to cap, seals off the left-hand side. A fourth of the board is pretty much now white's. But sedol doesn't run for a very long time. He has a tendency of attacking you. So instead of running out any further, he decides to go ahead and try to attack the wall that white's made, and apparently neglected in his last two moves. White strengthens himself, threatens to cut through. Black threatens to go under. Doesn't let it happen. But that means that black can go ahead and keep poking at his shape points. So white tries to fix. Now we're getting into a bit of a fight here, as everyone's trying to fix their shape points and hold on to their stones. Black wants to cut through, but white wants to separate black in the center and resume attacking him. So we see him go ahead and give up the top stones. He can still rescue him. This is still fine for white. He can still go ahead and connect under. And black takes Sente to make another large attempt to take 7th line territory. So the question is that enough for white? Can he go ahead, take the rest of the center, and be happy with it? Well, first he decides to go ahead and play a probe, and see if he can live in the corner. Black responds aggressively. Not going to be co here. If he responded this way, for example, we might have had something going. White cuts for Samaji. Black defends nicely. If black had defended the other way, then we would see these moves become very important, because white might be able to try something here. Because black has to keep in mind that those two stones at D2 are in potential trouble if white stones get stronger. It would be, yes. It's not actually played in the game because black defended correctly to make sure that that's not going to be a problem. Because there's really not much Agi to be had for... Let's not click that yet. There's really not much Agi to be had for white getting this forcing move in. But there's a ton of Agi to be had if white starts getting forcing moves here. Because now he's getting stones here, there's a gap, there's still a high stone that can be undercut. Lots more Agi there than the other. So white invades. Black says you're not going to connect. And look at that, you responded in Gote, so I'm going to try to reduce you. And now we've got an annoying problem on our hands. Because white is now behind a lot. He is very, very, very deep behind enemy lines. And his opponent is threatening to push up and reduce what he has. So what do? Obviously we're going to respond and protect our territory, because that seems like a good idea. Black's absolutely joyful to respond and see how long he's going to get forcing moves here. Make sure that white has nowhere to run out to. But on the bright side, white's territory is protected. All white has to do now is live. That's easy, right? Black protects. White gets a forcing move. Can white live now is the question. Black defends, also undercuts the group. Here we see more Agi. Black, oh, I misclicked. Black says, no, you're not living here. You're not getting me to defend. And now we have an interesting dilemma on our hands. We can keep playing to kill, or we can let it go. Black lets it go to ensure that the bottom's not going to live. A6 not the best move here? No, it wasn't. One of those rare instances, doubt, where first line moves are not the correct ones. T1 might be. T1 would be a cunning way for white to try to make those stones live again. T1. I always think of T1 fondly. Back when I was a very, very aggressive and rude player, I remember playing T1 against one of my opponents, because I thought he should have resigned a long time ago, and I just kind of got mad and began playing trash, because I knew I still won. And of course the upshot of that is I made T1 live, because he ignored me, so that was great. Moving on. White tries to run out. Yeah, I think G1 would be relative garbage too, sorry. But of course, no way out. He's too deep. I'll actually have to look at that, Zalord. I might actually have that game still, which is probably not a good thing. White goes to make some shape. Black pokes it out. And here's an interesting move. Almost everyone would immediately respond by playing a Hane, either above or below. But if you do that, you're probably going to go ahead and allow white to live. Black responds strongly by extending. Because if we play this and do something like this, we've just created a ko. And we've given white a lot of shape. I mean, we can continue trying to kill this, but white's almost alive now. I mean, he's got one eye for himself. He might be able to get another one via ko later on. So there's a lot of potential there. So we play strong. I don't know why you did that, but okay. So black plays strong, connects up. White tries to connect up as well, but of course, that's going to get cut through. And now we have a very, very aggressive turn of events. Because now, everything's coming back down to the middle. These stones that were, and still are, very, very weak. If they live, then this was a failed invasion. If they die, then this was a success beyond any hope that white ever had. White aggressively double Hanes, because he knows that black is now in a lot of trouble. And if black has to Atari, as we see in the game, then he's potentially giving up eye shape. White tries to keep black in, and then denies him an eye. But by denying him an eye, he created a cut point. So white cuts through. Now we're getting into a bit of a capture race here, and who has the most liberties. It looks like white does have quite a few liberties, that is true. However, how are we actually going to initiate that capture race? Because there's a bit of a question here as to what we're going to do with this connection. We can't simply push through, because that links up white. We can't simply try and play this way either, otherwise that's going to be threatened as well. I really wish there was a one-click remove. So black plays the Atari first. Make sure that white can never Hane. Gives himself some liberties. And then clamps. Ensures that there's no way for those to connect up. White tries. Very, very aggressively. And it looks like maybe he has succeeded. He's got a few liberties. He's got 4. And they can't be reduced right now. Black ignores it. And continues to make trouble. And here's where things get really, really interesting. Because black is now threatening to try and kill everything. Black plays the Atari. Or white plays the Atari, sorry. Black connects. Threatens to cut through. Connects. And this is what requires a bit of reading. Because Exactly. J13. What is going to happen there? Can we go ahead and ignore J13 to reduce a liberty? What do you think? Can we? It's only 2 liberties. It looks like we can. But the question again is J13. Does this work? Because if this doesn't work, we're in a lot of trouble. So black cuts. White reduces a liberty. Black plays forcing moves. And then obviously takes the 2 stones. And suddenly white has a bit of a problem on his hands. Because how many liberties is it going to take now to kill black? Versus how many is it going to take to kill white? White tries to get a few more in Sente. Black threatens to live, flat out without having to capture. And it would also allow white to connect up. So this is a bit of an exchange being offered here. Everyone can live happily ever after. White says, no, we're not living happily ever after. This is war. And one of us is going to die. So black says, okay, I guess we're still in a capture race. White plays aggressively to maximize his liberties. Black cuts off, raises the stakes. Now everything's threatening to die. This life and death problem in the middle now isn't just about this group, isn't just about this group, it's also about the right-hand group as well. Which is a staggering amount of territory. I mean, everything on the right, everything on the bottom is up for grabs at this point, depending on who's alive in the center. This is what I'd call a bloodbath, I have to say. This fits my definition quite nicely. Black escapes. White thinks he has some agi here, and it looks like he does. There's potential. I mean, there's the cut point, which would allow both sides to live happily ever after, and black to be very, very annoyed. But black simply takes, and now the question is, can we actually cut and do something here? That is a bit of a problem. Another question, because if we do cut, obviously black doesn't have to respond by cutting. That would be kind of silly. Black would probably Atari first, and then go back and cut, like a normal person would. At that point, there's really nothing white can do. Black has a lot of liberties in the middle, because he didn't offer the exchange, he didn't take up the exchange. Admittedly, that would have been a large one. Very, very large one. He'd have to go back and protect himself in Gote. And black would keep coming in. So that wasn't a favorable result. And yet, neither is the actual board. Because there's no way for White to win this. Which is why, after Black took, White went ahead and resigned. He was dead and he realized it. So that's a bit of a bloodbath. A fun one, though. Had opposing frameworks. Had some interesting reduction techniques. But I hope you guys enjoyed these two games. What if White played h12 earlier? I don't know. Instead of n6. Okay. Doot 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 doot. Aha. Excuse me. Let's take a look. Alright, so doot 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 doot. That'd be bad. Right, so if we push, we're going to go to Atari, we're going to take, and we can't reduce that liberty because it's a throw-in. So I guess we're going to connect. No, we can't connect. If we do that, we've got to defend. So there's still 4 liberties. Yeah, so the problem is it's still 4-4 with Black's turn. So this doesn't seem like it's going to work out. Ah, okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed both of these games. Not right now. I have a lesson in like 4 minutes. I've gone way over time. Sorry about that. But we'll have another lesson week after next.